Look, I don't really think it matters if you haven't read a book since the 8th grade. You've undoubtedly heard the phrase, sympathetic hero. A hero who has ordinary, believable feelings about difficult situations, but isn't paralyzed by those feelings. Traditionally, this has been the epic hero, someone who's not just tested physically, but mentally and emotionally throughout their journey. Continuing this tradition, the narratives in film began adopting sympathetic characters. However, these stories began to take a noticeable shift away from a classic hero, moving instead to a complicated ensemble of characters. Specifically, villains. As a result, film might be the only form of narrative where the antagonists are more famous than their heroes. In fact, some of the most famous films of all time have featured some of the most iconic villains. And it isn't just blockbusters or Oscar nominees that have made film such a unique haven. Just think of all the faces throughout the history of film. How many of them are good guys? This was my favorite scene in 2017's Thoroughbreds, a film that challenges the boundaries of what a sympathetic hero can truly be. The film's plot, which is centered around two high school girls who band together to commit the perfect murder, drew numerous comparisons to 1988's Heathers. However, while I think Heathers succeeds in creating sympathetic characters in such a strange and hostile world, Thoroughbreds makes no effort to endear us to its main duo. As we watch the girls ponder their crime, we as an audience are constantly asking ourselves if we can relate to their wants and desires. Until I got to this scene. Because the film isn't concerned with if you like or relate to its main characters. It just wants to show you their story.
They take turns visiting her, and when they sit next to her bed.
So who is our protagonist? It depends on who you ask. If you consider the protagonist to be the character central to the plot, it would have to be Lily. It's her stepfather that she and co-conspirator Amanda plot to murder, it's her property that the majority of the film takes place in, and it's her that always seems to have the most on the line. From a narrative standpoint, Lily mostly fits the mold for a traditional protagonist, and yet her life is something that most of us have little ability to relate to. Lily lives in affluence, so much so that it alienates her from our sympathies. Her estate is a seemingly endless mansion, with vacant hallways that conjure up memories of the Overlook Hotel. The mansion is constantly tended to by gardeners, maids, and general servants. But the thing is, we never really see these characters, much less hear them. Again, very Overlook Hotel. Needless to say, Lily's status separates her from those who are working around her. Her financial privileges also boost Lily amongst her peers, as the teen claims to be taking time off from her prestigious boarding school in order to take place in an elite internship.
Was it hard?
No.
However, after some looking into, it becomes apparent that all of this luxury is little more than a facade. Her internship story is a hoax, as Amanda discovers that the position never existed to begin with. What's more, the school at which Lily had been attending has since expelled her, for plagiarism no less. Her seemingly perfect life acts as a mask for the legitimate issues that are plaguing the teen. But because of her status, Lily's unable to be held accountable for her actions. This leads us to her internal justification for killing Mark. Money. But what about Amanda? It's through her eyes that we're first introduced to the world of Thoroughbreds, and she is the first character we, the audience, are introduced to ourselves. But this experience, to be blunt, is weird. In addition to lacking any sort of emotional expression, the teen claims that she doesn't really feel anything at all.
Don't have any negative feelings.
I don't have any feelings, ever.
To make matters worse, we find out towards the end of Act 1 that Amanda is awaiting trial, specifically for brutally slaughtering her family's thoroughbred horse. The ramifications of this crime are constantly looming over Amanda throughout the movie. But because of the violence, which is so graphic it can't be shown on screen, as well as her apparent apathy towards her surrounding world, we quickly realize that Amanda isn't someone who we just can't relate to, but someone we might actually need to be afraid of. Until we get here, and everything flips on its head. It's here, when Lily visits Amanda's home, and her own mother reveals that she has no idea how to relate to her own daughter, that both we and Lily realize that there's something more to Amanda's strangeness.
What's she doing out there?
I don't know.
Although she lacks the expression, Amanda's far from the irrational psychopath everyone thinks her to be. With this in mind, her aimless wandering throughout Lily's home becomes a meticulous stakeout. Her aggressive approach towards her friend turns to an attempt to cut through her facade. Even her idea to kill Mark, although initially viewed as absurd, proves to be a well thought out plan. It's her mental clarity that allows the plan to succeed. And Amanda's final incarceration proves that there might have been a depth to her character that we might not have only overlooked, but dismissed altogether. With all this said, I don't think that makes her the main character. Rather, I think it's Lily that undergoes the greater development as a character. As is the case with her co-conspirator, this scene at Amanda's house completely changes our perception of Lily. Although her fortune is presented to be an immense luxury, we soon find out that Lily is actually at the whims of her stepfather Mark, who doesn't exactly seem to be the paternal type.
I'm fine.
Because he is apparently the sole breadwinner, all of Lily's status has a dependence on him. This is best illustrated through his choosing Lily's next boarding school, as Mark not only shuts down her protests, but specifically defends himself through financial contributions.
This is not a conversation. We've already made the down payment.
What's more, Lily's mother is of little assistance. She too appears to be pressured to act in Mark's good graces.
We think you do really well in a supportive environment.
In reality, Lily's control of her own life is as fabricated as her internship. She lacks any sort of choice, and Amanda provides an alternative. Lily goes from being passive and in denial of her circumstances to actively and aggressively changing them. In the end, Amanda's sacrifice teaches Lily the most important lesson of the film.
The only thing worse than being incompetent, or being unkind, or being evil, is being indecisive.
Both Lily and Amanda make for strange characters. In theory, we shouldn't have any reason to relate to them or their struggle. And yet, we do. See, the world of Thoroughbreds is decadent but uncaring. These heroines ought to be equally so. They're polarizing, certainly. But then again, so's the film's message on class. Lily never develops morally. Instead, her decisiveness is her sign of maturation. By the end of the film, Lily isn't just strong or confident, she's now in complete control of her life. Amanda's teachings and sacrifice pave the way for our now fully realized Lily.
I just threw it away.
And although she isn't the classic sympathetic character, she's become one nonetheless.